That's funny. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you.
All right. I think we are I think we're good to go after
We're
our
up,
little
we're offi- we're official.
last time. I think we are all good to go. Got everything working this time. We're a little more prepared, I think. We just everything came down so last minute on us last time, for me at least.
Is
So
is this does this sound okay?
sounds good. Do I sound all
Okay,
right
good.
for you?
Yeah, you sound great.
You sound pretty. Is that no, it's weird. So
Thank
sorry. Hey, so how was your weekend? There's a lot to talk about from what happened over the weekend, but before we dive into all the good gish stuff, how was your weekend? I know it was a holiday weekend. You had mentioned you were going to take a day off. I know you were in the middle of writing all stuff for your wrestling too. So, did you have a good weekend?
I actually took 2 days off for a change from
Good.
I did do some wrestling work. I've been writing. We have upcoming television. We have a pay-per-view on June 6th at 4 p.m. Eastern, called When Our Shadows Fall. Actually, Jeff Schroeder from the Pumpkins wrote the theme song, which is
Oh,
pretty awesome.
nice. That's nice.
Yeah. And so busy with that and lots of stuff going on there. But yeah, it took a couple days off in the studio. We're in the middle of this 33 song album we're recording right now for Pumpkins, which is the sequel to Melancholy Machina.
Right.
That's just crazy amount of work.
I bet it is.
Great. Spent time with the kids and just did all the normal stuff.
That's good. Did you guys grill out or anything? Do you grill out? I don't, is that you or is that Chloe maybe that does the cooking? I don't know.
Do I look like a griller?
No, no, no.
See,
But
sorry to interrupt you, but when you've been memed like I have, you don't want to get caught at the grill because somebody will make a meme of you.
fair enough. Fair enough. But you do have I just read last night that you guys actually did a beer, which is actually cool with the local brewery Hop Butcher. That you guys did. That's actually really fun. And I
Yeah,
would think that a lot of your just people in Chicago who like local breweries. We have local breweries, a lot of them here in Tulsa that we work with. And so that's pretty fun that you guys came up with that concept right there.
yeah, they do a really cool concept in that they do IPAs and then they basically do kind of a limited edition every week. So we did a limited edition with them, completely blew out all the beer we had.
Yeah.
So to celebrate the Gish 30-year anniversary, they did a beer called Soulhead, based around the name of my first Pumpkins amp, which was called the Soulhead.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why.
Yeah.
And it was great. I mean, we got a lot of press for it, which was awesome. We're happy to help local businesses. My tea house, which is called Madame Zuzu's outside of Chicago, is a local business. Obviously, we're in a small community. And so we love working with other small businesses. And, as I've told you privately before, I love the part of the world you're from. And I love that you guys have such nice shops. And obviously the city's kicking back into another level,
Yeah.
probably for the first time since the oil boom years. So I'm happy that you guys are rocking and we're rocking up here.
That's good. We're happy to be rocking too. We're watching all the concerts starting to come back now. Kane's Ballroom has just been. I felt like concerts are just dropping out of the air like candy. Like I was beating up a pinata, and it's the candy that goes everywhere. I'm just watching all these shows just pop up, and I think you're doing a couple of festivals, right? Aren't you doing like Riot Fest, or you got some festivals lined up?
Yeah, we have a festival in Chicago, Riot Fest, and we're headlining that, and then we're headlining another Riot Fest, which is I think in New Jersey. Pearl Jam's on another one of the days. So yeah, big stuff. Unfortunately, these are shows that got pushed back from last year.
Yeah.
And then the only other unfortunate thing is we don't really know what we're doing after that. So these are right now these only two shows we have booked.
Well, you're just busy writing all the music there for the 33 song album, which
Yeah.
we're excited to hear. I'm
Let me
excited to
let me
hear.
let me tell you one thing though. This is something because it involves you guys. Is we're talking about what we're going to do next after we finish this record. And one thing we're talking about doing is maybe going somewhere for a while to write. And so the first city I mentioned was Tulsa.
Oh, nice.
So it's possible SP might drop in for a few months to work.
Well,
So
come on to the station. You know you're welcome up here. We got new studios up here that we just did some work, and they're nice and pretty new studios. And our Edge studio is nice and comfortable. We get some couches in there. You can come hang out anytime you want. You're always, and Canes will let you come by anytime. So
well, yeah, actually, that's be the first thing I would do is call Canes and see if they would come let us work there during the day.
yeah, I'm sure they're not gonna have a problem with that. They'd be like,
Well,
come on,
yeah,
William.
you never know. You never know.
You don't. So All right. So you were talking about working on the songs for the follow up to Melancholy and Machina. I want to find out where you at in the process of the remasters for Machina. Machina is, to me, is an epic album, and so I'm curious how that's coming along and how it is that you're actually going to mesh the order of the two albums from Machina and Machina
Sure.
2 together. How was that?
Yeah. So a little bit of biographical detail for those who would know. In 2000, the band released an album called Machina 1, which was just a part of a much larger work. The band was kind of falling apart and eventually going to break up. And then after that, we released pretty much the first free on the internet album that I think anybody did that was at least that was big.
Yeah.
Called Machina 2, and fans actually liked that album a lot more. I went back to the record label at the time and said, let's put the two albums together and kind of re-release it. There's kind of some momentum here. And they told me to take a walk. So long story short, we finally have put the two albums as they were written kind of back together. It's over 50 songs, or I think it's 50 songs.
Nice.
And then there's 30 extra tracks. Everything's mastered, ready to go. The only thing that's holding up right now is there's a vinyl shortage in the world.
Yeah. Like I
so-
saw your the Live in Japan thing, like 6-month leave time on that.
Yeah.
I was trying to get
Yeah.
the vinyl.
I think, people get grumpy about that stuff, but I mean, I don't run the world,
Right,
trust me.
right.
I would if I could and they'd let me, but yeah. So unfortunately there's a huge vinyl shortage right now. We were trying to order some vinyl, stuff like Beatles and Pink Floyd for my tea house, and you can't get anything. Everything is
Wow.
completely on back order because nobody can produce vinyl right now.
Right.
And even the vinyl manufacturing plants are limiting how many vinyls you can order at one time because their demand is so high. So it's a very difficult situation. So everything's ready to go. It's just on hold.
So what's going to be more the order? Do you clearly go in there and mesh the songs? You're mixing like Eye of the Morning and with some stuff from Machina 2. I mean, does it change the order? Because clearly there's a theme through the album. So I mean, how does that affect the order of the songs, or does that really come into play? Or are you just like, no, let's just put them all together? And
That's a great question, actually. The thing that's interesting was, we never really finished the order because in order to finish Machina 1, we had to kind of make some decisions at the time when we finished some stuff. I later went back and finished a lot of what became Machina 2, kind of in between touring dates in 2000. So this is the first time the album's actually in sequence to the story that was written. And what's really interesting about it is the album is way more new wave and kind of dark goth than even I remember at the time. Like when you hear it all in sequence, it's a much moodier and prettier record, where if you just listen to Machina 1, the album's a bit abrasive and maybe overly dark.
yeah.
And so there's something about the sequence that really illuminates what the album is really about. And I think the hardcore fans know how important that work is. But I think amongst the normal people who don't really follow everything that we do, I think they'll finally understand how this is just as important a work from the band as was some of our other important work. So we're proud to put it out. And again, we're just literally just waiting on the vinyl shortage stuff.
Well, good. We're all ready for it. I'll tell you that's for sure. So, all right. So let's jump back then to Gish. So when I was talking to you the other day, it was going to be before the fun over at the tea house over at Madame Zuzu's. Real quick, funny story. So I, like you, I'm a cat lover. And I have cats. We've had cats in my family. My wife finally talked to me into getting a dog, which to be honest with you, I wasn't real thrilled about. But I got to be part of the naming process. And I threw out the name Zuzu. And the kids all voted for that name right there. And then after we picked it, I was like, oh, by the way, that's from Billy's tea house right there. So anyway, just
let me tell you something. When I was a kid, we had a dog that my stepmother named. Okay, the dog's name was Paradox. Okay, now you try as a little kid running down the street chasing after a dog, yelling Paradox.
right.
Paradox. So my only warning is at some point you're going to be running down the street going Zuzu. So just be careful what you wish for. Then
What I feel like what I'm doing. So how did everything go over there? I saw a couple of clips here and there from the Gish listening party. It looked like it was actually, you guys were having a really good time. So how was it for you? Was it fun?
it was really nice. It's not every day you sit down and listen to a whole album, even if it's your own. I mean, we're just so busy these days, right?
Yeah.
So it was just nice to sit there with Jimmy and really reflect on the process, how the work's held up, what we remember about it. It was really great. Because of COVID restrictions, we could only let 50 people in the tea house, but everybody there was certainly a big fan. And we just had a lot of fun. It was just nice to just stop for a minute, and especially coming off of this last year where we've all been stuck inside, just to get outside and commune with some people, have a laugh, share some stories. We did a live cast around the world, and so a bunch of other people got to join us. And so we raised some money for Paw Chicago, which is a local no-kill animal shelter. It's just one of those nights where you go, I'm always going to remember this, and I feel really good about it. It felt like it was the right turning of the page. You don't always get a chance to stop and smell the roses, and that was a moment for us. And I think we'll do more of that stuff coming in the years to come. It won't be long before Siamese Dream will be turning 30, which is just unbelievably hard to believe, but there it is.
There it is. So I liked all the fun stuff that you did leading up to it, which to me I think is real important just in general as far as keeping your fans engaged, especially as you're trying to garner a new, younger fan base. Doing the things like, the video scavenger hunts that they had to go do. I like the coloring page thing that you did too. I printed that off and I'm waiting for my kids to color that. They're pretty slow at coloring. I had to make a couple copies because they went outside the lines a little bit, but I just like the engagement that you have been putting in to doing those types of things. I think it's very important in order for us to be able to, for the listeners to be able to connect with you and vice versa. I just like that whole element. So really, I'm just giving you props for thinking like that and doing that. So
yeah, if you'll allow me to opine for a second, growing up, I always loved that about the Beatles, that the Beatles had cartoons and all sorts of stuff. And through the years, the band would ask for certain things and we would just be told no, like you're not big enough, or we don't want to spend that kind of money. That's in essence, those types of things are only reserved for the biggest bands. And I think we're entering an era where everybody from the smallest artist to the medium artist to the largest artist are realizing that no, their fans want to engage with them in whatever way the artists want to engage with them. Oh, yeah. And I think what's so exciting about the world as it exists now is those types of things are just not reserved for the select few. And you can really have a relationship with the fans any way you want. So for example, going back to Gish Anniversary weekend for a second, we had specially designed cakes, specially designed beer. We designed an event that was really, really fun and exciting for us, both Jimmy Chamberlain and I, but also for fans. We shared that with the world. And we just kind of made our own, it's like if anybody watched The Little Rascals growing up, it's like you just make your own show, right? Yeah. That's what DIY punk was supposed to be before it got caught up in the gears of the record business. So I really think music is slowly or maybe quickly is returning back to the idea that it's really just about having a great time and engaging with everybody. And the music, of course, is a huge part of that. But there's lots of other stuff you can do. Because what happens sometimes when you're in a band that's had some success and you've been around for a while is people just kind of keep pushing in the same corner, asking the same question, wanting you to kind of repeat the same thing. For us to celebrate Gish was a big, big deal. And we recognize that it's not as big a deal for everybody. But sometimes you have these arguments in the music business where you're trying to explain to somebody how a platinum album, which by the way, that means 1 million copies sold, how a platinum album isn't as important as some other album. And you're going, no, you don't understand. This was an important album, not only in its time, but for us personally. So the great thing about my tea house is we can do whatever we want. We make up the rules. We do what we want. And that's what, like, some of my happiest memory of the last couple of days was watching little kids hold up some of the coloring pages that were designed for Gish Anniversary weekend. Just to see little kids engaging with us on that level it really warms my heart.
As it should. Again, for me, it's fun to be able to get my kids involved in doing something like that. To them, they're just coloring and having a good time. For me, it means something more because ultimately the band has meant something to me throughout my entire life. So you were submitting a lot of Gish stories. Tell us your memories and stuff like that. So what was probably one of your favorite memories from that whole Gish era? As far as maybe touring goes, or was there anything that really was fun to you that we're like, man, nostalgically?
We were still a poor band, so we spent that whole time riding around in vans, basically. So my enduring memory is freezing in a van, freezing in a van somewhere in America, somewhere in Europe. Like, for example, when the first time we went to Berlin was right after the wall had come down. Maybe it'd been 6 months, 9 months. So it was still a really big deal that the wall had just come down. And we went with this guy who hated us, who was our driver, our English lorry. we went to see where the wall had been. And for example, I mean, this was this tough, crusty roadie guy. He'd been around for years, and he just wasn't having us as a band. Didn't like our music, didn't like us.
Right.
Standing there next to him at the wall, watching him cry, real tears. You know what I mean? And like, so but then we get back in the van. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not like we got back in our tour bus.
Right.
So it's these weird memories of being cold and hungry, and then having these kind of incredible experiences of playing in front of European crowds for the first time. And the European crowds were bigger than the crowds we were playing for in America.
Right.
So the band was actually taking off first, particularly around Belgium and France was where the band first started really taking off. So I imagine, you know, for the first time you're playing 2,000, 3,000 people. You're like, what's happening? Something's happening. And then you get back in this smelly, cold van and go see the Berlin Wall. You know, it's like, it's a really weird mixture of like the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, you bet. So I have a Gish memory that I'm almost ashamed of. Because
you really want to about losing your virginity on the air?
Hey, it was wasn't a good day. I remember I was there, and I know you remember this. I was at the Myriad Arena in Oklahoma City in '92 when you guys opened up for Guns N' Roses. I am ashamed
we got booed for 45 minutes straight.
I am ashamed of myself now because I was in that crowd booing, and that was when I was, I was young and dumb.
That was your sonorous voice that I heard on stage.
Probably was. I do like how you guys were making fun of us and the cows and stuff. I actually found a really crappy bootleg of it, and I've like listened to it. You can hardly understand any of it, but it's that was for me was my first experience with you guys, and then from where I'm at now, you guys did so much.
That's the site of the famous story where the crowd was booing and booing and booing. And finally I got the crowd to quiet a little bit. And I said, you know, the only reason you're so mad at me is you're all living on stolen Indian land. Right. And then they really booed.
See,
I'm standing on stage, right? I mean, look, this is, by the way, this is God bless Guns N' Roses still playing, but this is Guns N' Roses 92, like the whole circus there, right? I mean, It was, you know, MTV every 5 minutes and the whole thing. So now we're opening and we're a baby band. And by the way, the Guns people treated us great. They were totally lovely. So nothing there. But we're on stage and we're getting booed for 45 minutes, you know. And I'm standing on stage thinking, what can I say to these people out here in the sticks to really make them mad? And the best I could come up with was, you're living on stolen Indian land. And Jimmy Chamberlain, drummer of the Smashing Pumpkins, said at that exact moment when I said that line, somebody had thrown a quarter from the upper deck of the Enormo Dome, wherever we were, and hit him in the back of the head. So he's still mad at me for the line. He got him hit in the head with a quarter.
Oh, that's too funny. It's funny now. I feel bad because, you know, I think about, I'm like, you know, you guys were up and comers, and here we are being complete jerks and being that way to you. So
but you know what? I saw I'm dating myself. I saw Metallica on the Ride the Lightning tour, and the two opening bands were Armored Saint and Wasp.
Wow. Yeah.
And Armored Saint was kind of more metal for metal's sake, right? So the crowd was pretty much a little cold but respectful of them, but they were all over Wasp. And Wasp was a good band and had some hits and stuff. But to that crowd, that Metallica crowd of whatever 1984, whatever the year was, you know, Wasp was the enemy.
Right.
And if you think about it, alternative music, even though GNR, I would still say wasn't always is an alternative band. To that crowd, especially in that part of the country where you are, you know, we were the enemy. We were the people climbing up out of the sewers that they didn't want to see. We were the next wave, whatever that next wave was. So it's fine. I look back. I honestly look back on it very fondly.
Well, that's good. That's good. It's funny because when you ultimately came back on the Melancholy tour, you referenced it a few years later at the same venue. You were like, yeah, and I was like, and
then I hit you and said you were booing. I know you were booing.
I was booing, and then I'm there and I'm just cheering wildly, having a really good time. So Just real quick. All right. So something else I wanted to touch on, an album from you that I personally feel doesn't get as much love in general, but to me kicks so much ass is Zeitgeist. I think that album, for me, for you coming back, it was just like a kick in the balls, and it was just like, raw, is how that album kind of came across to me. Beautiful album, so much going on with that, but I don't feel like it gets as much love. Like, for example, one of my streaming services I use, that album is not on that particular service right there. Is there a reason for that maybe I feel like that, or maybe that it's not on certain things?
Sure. Well, let me tell you a little story on that album. So that was the album where Jimmy Chamberlain and I brought the band back in 2007.
Yeah.
And what I didn't realize was how much the world had changed between 2000, our last Smashing Pumpkins album, in 2007. So I was a bit blindsided by the world, what the world had become, which I would call like almost like hyper pop. So that was a bit strange because we just kind of picked up the pieces where we felt we left off on Machina. Secondarily, people were very grumpy that there weren't more band members in the band. Of course, James Iha has come back since, so now it's 3/4 of the original line. But that was a much bigger deal to people than we had counted on. We just couldn't understand it. We understand you want the original band, but it's not that big a deal. I mean, the bands move on. The fans really made a big deal of that. So we went into that as well. And then thirdly, and I'm saying this overly simply for the sake of conversation, basically anything that wasn't Siamese Dream 2 was going to be a problem.
Right.
And by the way, if you had told me that before I made the album, I still would have made the album made.
Yeah.
But okay, now to your question. The reason it's off streaming services was because I felt the album wasn't really getting the love it deserved. And I also felt that the album needs to be mixed differently, that the album isn't really representative. It's a much heavier album than the way that it was mixed. Yeah. So the way I looked at it, I own that record myself. So I decided to take it off streaming services, and then I'm going to remix the album, kind of create a box set around some of the additional materials, and we'll put it back up relatively soon. Actually, I've been talking to my label Sumerian about re-releasing Zeitgeist through Sumerian. So it'll be back up soon enough. But to your point, it's an album that very much talks about the coming, let's call it technocratic world, this thing where we're being spied on, everything we do is being observed. You can't go anywhere without, somebody like, we've all had that thing where you talk about something, you do something, and next, an ad is popping up for the talking to your partner about all that weird dystopic stuff.
You bet.
So that album talked about that. And that was 2007, by the way. People called me paranoid. Said the themes of the album were overly dark. Well, let me tell you what, go back and listen to that album now if you can find it and tell me if I'm overly dark. I was actually quite dead on in my predictions about where the world was going. And so I think politically it was hard for people to deal with some of the messaging. But I think if you listen to the album now in the context we're in, the album's actually way ahead of its time. And to your other point, I think now the album's starting to get a lot of love and people really bugging me to put it back out. So I think once it comes back out, it'll get its proper place in the canon of work, and it's fine.
So do you got a lot of unreleased tracks or extra B-side stuff for that?
Tons.
That makes me super happy. Again,
actually, sorry, I hate to be this guy, but the demos for Zeitgeist are actually really good. They're shot. Usually our demos aren't very good because we just don't spend a lot of time on them. But the demos are actually quite good and actually kind of reveal a part of the album that maybe the album doesn't represent. So I look forward to putting all that stuff back out soon.
I look forward to that too. So that's super exciting for me. That again, for me, that album just really at my life in that time, it just really came in and kicked ass. And what was fun for me is also you were doing some residency shows around that time as well too. We actually drove. I was in Texas at the time, but we drove to Asheville to go watch you at the Orange Peel, and that was amazing. You like to doing all those residency shows, yeah?
I did like doing all those residency shows. Those we did 9 in Asheville, North Carolina. I think we did 12 at the Fillmore West in San Francisco. It absolutely killed my desire to ever do it again.
Yeah.
There's a documentary about it, if you can find it, called If All Goes Wrong, that sort of talks about those residencies and us kind of coming into the buzzsaw of people expecting us to be a band that we honestly never were.
Right.
Oversimplifying again, it's when the weirdest things when you have success is people almost kind of make up their mind the band that they think that you are. And then the rest of your life, you're expected to be the band you never were, but the band they think that you were. And that's a really weird process to go through. I used to really kick against it, and it caused a lot of problems, both for me and of course the audience. Now I've kind of accepted it and I just try to have fun with it. because I really, at this point, 30 plus years in, I just want music to be fun. I got kids, I got things to do, like a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I don't want to waste their time, and I don't want them to waste mine. So I think we've kind of found a nice balance now, especially with James back in the band. And I think this has been some of the best times we've ever had.
And it was fun having Jack out on the road with you guys too. It was fun to see him out there and just be involved. And then, you know, when
We tell people who you're talking about, though.
Jack Bates, amazing bass player right there. He stepped in with you guys. And what
also, sorry, real quick, but Jack Bates is the son of Peter Hook from New Orleans Joy Division. And when Peter used to come see us play, because I've known Peter since I think 1990. When Peter used to come see us play back in the day, we met Jack when he was like literally like a little kid.
Right. Oh, that's funny.
We've known Jack since he was like a teen.
Yeah.
So Jack's kind of part of our bigger kind of musical family. So it's really great having Jack in the band.
It was fun to see him up there. And when James was coming back, I was a little worried about what was going to happen with Jeff, to be honest with you. So I'm really glad that Jeff, that he hung out and stuck around. He is such an amazing guitar player. And I love seeing all three of you get up there. And what's fun to see is you having the chance to actually take your guitar off and just kind of enjoy, like you're saying right there, just have fun with the music. How does that make you feel? Is that a weird, I'm sure it is a weird feeling for you?
It's a little bit weird. I turn into this other guy, I guess the guy from the Ava Adore video or something, but you know, the great thing about Jeff is he's been in the band now for 14 years. So
right.
He's been in the band as long as James was the first time.
Right.
So that's pretty amazing. And yeah, when James came back, I was like, no, we're going to a 3-guitar lineup. And the great thing about that is now when we do the 3-guitar lineup, we can do the albums as the way they're recorded. So we can do all the multi-player guitar parts. So it's great. It's honestly, it's the best times in the band. Everybody gets along great. A lot of balance. You know, sometimes behind the scenes, you don't have balance with personalities. The personalities really balance each other out. A lot of good leadership there, and just really, really happy with it.
That's good. I'm really happy to hear that you're at that point right now where everything is going.
Because it wasn't easy before.
Right.
As some of you may have heard.
A couple times maybe. So, all right. So are we going to get anything new before the end of the year? Just putting out anything new, a song here, a song there, anything like that?
It's totally possible we'll have a new single by the end of the year. We're certainly on pace to finish by that time. And we've discussed it with our label Sumerian. Just whether or not it all lines up that way, those forces are sometimes beyond me. Sometimes, believe it or not, this is going to be a really good album, in my opinion. Certainly better than anything we released recently. And that's not to denigrate. I just think it's another step up. Certainly, when you tell people you're going to record a sequel to Melancholy and Machina, you better step up and really produce your best. Sometimes, though, when you submit an album that's really, really good, believe it or not, people behind the scenes get more conservative. They actually want to slow things down and try to like think the plan through a little more. So it's possible I might hand this thing and they might get conservative on me and want to push it back a little bit to make sure that the setup is right.
Right.
Me personally, if I hand in the music September 1st, I sure hope we have a single coming up by Christmas.
Excellent, man. That's fantastic. So, William, thank you. I know you got a lot of things going on. So I just thank you for once again for hopping on here and chatting with us. And please come and record and hang out in Tulsa. You're welcome here at the station.
You're the first person I'm calling for coming to Tulsa.
Call us up. You got our email. You got our number. You know how to reach us. So thank you, sir, for your time. Have a fantastic day today, brother. So I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye.